Welcome back to the Pittsburgh Sportscast, where two college students discuss all things Pittsburgh sports all year round. And Chris, this was not a podcast that I had foreseen doing even a week ago. I fully expected to do a podcast after they had officially canceled the 2020 season. And, I thought we were going to have this grand post-mortem of how baseball died in 2020 because of this greed. And that greed may still persist, but guess what? Baseball will indeed come back in 2020. Chris, how are you feeling about that?
I'm intrigued. I'm very, very intrigued. I'm intrigued to see, how the baseball is, how long it's going to take for the rust to shake off. I'm intrigued about this new playoff format, which we'll get into later. I'm intrigued to see the fans' perception. What do the fans think? Are the fans happy there's baseball? Are the fans still bitter about, this negotiation? I'm very interested to see. There's a lot of things to be interested in. There's a lot of interesting storylines, I think, that we can break down, as we will break down throughout this podcast. But very, very intrigued.
Oh, certainly. But yeah, honestly, were you expecting this, Chris? Because I for sure wasn't. I mean,
I was not. No, I knew. Well, because Manfred came out and said, a couple weeks ago, I 100% guarantee there's going to be a baseball season. And then, a week later, he's like, I can no longer say 100%. So when the commissioner himself says he's not even 100% sure there's going to be a baseball season, I think that that just shows a lack of confidence. And, because it didn't seem like the owners and the players were anywhere close to coming up with the deal. I know Manfred, made a statement that he was going to force a season, which obviously he did end up doing. But it was rocky. I wasn't sure at all that there was going to be baseball.
yeah, and then you have to remember that the players did end up approving that return to play mandate. They were given the safety protocols and they determined that it was okay for them to go ahead and get back to work. So July 1st, spring training will begin again, although I guess you could call it summer camp in this case. That's a joke that's been flying around. But, yep, so July 1st, and then July, I think 24th or 5th, they don't know yet. The season will get underway, 60 games. Should be really interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, yeah. There's just so much to talk about here. How, because this is no longer a marathon, right? We're used to baseball being this 162 game marathon that takes 6 months to complete. We don't have that. We have 60 games. This is a sprint. You could
Exactly.
get a bad team, which I think we'll talk about later. You could maybe get an average to bad team, and they get hot for a quick second. They could find themselves right in playoff contention here.
Indeed, they could. And the fact that baseball season is a sprint and not a marathon could make for a lot of exciting games. Every game essentially now is 2.7 times more meaningful than it would be in an ordinary circumstance. So perhaps we could see managers making a bold move that they otherwise wouldn't make to secure a victory rather than play it a bit more conservative. So should have a lot of craziness lined up. So
Yes, yes, it should.
yeah.
So then, so then I'll let you talk about kind of what the schedule looks like, the new playoff format.
Uh I I haven't seen the new playoff format, but I do know that the schedule will be 60 games. We already said that. So you'll play 40 games against your division, so that's 10 games each. And then you'll play the other 20 games against the same your division, but in the other league. So for instance, The Pirates are going to be playing the AL Central as their out-of-division opponents. They'll play 4 games each. So it's 20 games. 4 times 5 is 20. So 4 games each against all the teams in the American League Central. I think that's a big break for the Pirates because they were set to play the American League East this year had the world not stopped, which means Yankees, Red Sox, even Tampa Bay Rays have creeped into there with their talent that they have. It was looking to be a very rough campaign. But with the American League Central now being the Pirates' opponents, hey, you never know.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the playoffs, and actually the players are business as usual. There will be 3 division winners per league, along with 2 wild cards. The wild cards play 1 game at the home of the team with a better record, while the top division winner squares off against the winner in a 5-game divisional playoff series.
Cool.
Um,
I
so,
thought,
go ahead.
yeah, I thought so, but I just wasn't sure. I know that was one of the things that the owners wanted in their proposal, but it appeared the players weren't up for it.
And just to kind of clarify on the schedule, so the Pirates are going to play the Reds, the Cubs, the Brewers,
The
and
Cardinals.
the Cardinals 10 times each. I don't know if you said that.
I did say that.
Okay.
I said we play each team in our division 10 times
10
each. So,
times.
yes. And then we
Sweet.
play the teams in the other league, but the same division, 4 times each.
And to go along with the new season, we got some new strange rules.
Yeah, I know. It's very weird. One that as soon as the pandemic hit, I was expected to see this. This was included in every single proposal made by both sides. For the first time in history, the National League will use the dreaded, well, you can have an opinion on this, designated hitter rule. So, unfortunately, Madison Bumgarner will have just one job. He'll be throwing the ball over the plate. He won't have to put a bat in his hand. Trevor Williams, Stephen Brault, I know, have shown at times to be not awful, but yeah, that's really significant for us because now that's an extra position that we have to fill that we didn't have to worry about before. So that raises a lot of questions. The universal DH and another rule that I don't see why, but so after the 9th inning, in extra innings, well, every extra innings will start with a runner on second base. So the person who made the last out in the 9th inning will go on second base, and the inning will start from there. Now, this is a rule that was tested in the 2017 World Baseball Classic. So it's not exactly that brand new, and I believe the minor leagues have been kind of using it as a trial run. But this is kind of bewildering, and it's one of those out there rules. Another instance, I guess, of Manfred trying to modernize the game unnecessarily.
I, I'm I'm confused with both rules, to be honest. I don't know why with COVID-19 the NL all of a sudden needs a DH. I know the DH has been in talks with the NL and different things, but I don't know why COVID has changed the pitcher's ability or inability to hit. That even kind of confuses me too. Oh, coronavirus, you know what that means? Pitchers can't hit.
I don't know if it has to do with the percentage of games that are interleague or, you know, it could be that. Of course, you usually don't play that many interleague games. You usually play, I think, less than 20, I'm sure, because you play one division in the other league 3 or 4 times. So, but then now interleague play will be a third of the season. So I guess they wanted to level the playing field for that. I don't know. But
Yeah, I don't know. It's very confusing to me.
yeah, it's very confusing to me as well. I kind of get what they're trying to do with extra inning. I mean, it's very weird and gimmicky, and I'm not a fan of it as a baseball fan. But with the amount of games that they're condensing into a short period of time, it certainly does kind of. I see where they're coming from with the runner on second. They want to make sure that there's not 5-6 hour games every week with the
But this,
tight schedule.
but the season was always tight. I
Yeah, but
mean,
there's only I think you only get like 6 off days.
I mean, how many do you get throughout a season normally?
More than that, you usually have to have a day off. At the most, you have a day off. I think 21 days is the most, and that rarely happens. That's only if rainouts and stuff happen that you get that. But usually you'll have usually you'll have one off day a week. Occasionally you'll play a 4 game series and you'll have to play on a Monday or a Thursday when you otherwise wouldn't have to. Or there's the rare wraparound series that start on a Friday and end on a Monday, but those are fading out as well. So, I mean, kind of. I mean, I'm not a fan of it as a baseball fan, but I can kind of see where they're coming from. It's a shame that they couldn't find something cooler, like, I don't know, like just have like a home run derby or something. I think that would be really interesting.
Yeah, but then you run into kind of the issue like the NHL, like diehard hockey fans will say, well, the shootout isn't hockey, right? I think you'd run into that same issue with if it's like a home run derby, because that's not baseball.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this. Would you prefer this method or a game ending in a tie?
Neither. I just want
But
the extra inning rules to stay the same.
if you had to choose between this idiocy and a tie, it's a would you rather question.
A tie.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I don't care. I mean, this is America. And
The
we don't.
NHL does ties.
Well, they do. They got rid of ties. They used to have ties until
Well,
2004.
technically, you get a point for losing, so you don't fully lose.
No, but you don't. There's still a winner and a loser, even if it takes a shootout.
Well,
Uh,
technically, it doesn't go in the loss column.
no, it goes into the technically it goes into the OT loss column.
If you look at
So
the goaltenders' records, right, it will have win, tie, and loss.
well, yes, because that's for statistical purposes. That's like if
Right.
you score in a
It's
shootout.
still a tie.
Well, but you still have that extra point to play for. Like, I don't know. Like, it already bugs me that the NFL has ties. Like, if you're gonna
Well,
play an
that's my
overtime
point.
period at that point,
Because the NFL has ties, the NHL technically has ties, soccer and the rest of the world has ties. So
but that's the
really,
rest of the world.
it's really only basketball and baseball that don't.
True, but I don't know. It just feels weird. Like, I
And a
can.
runner on second base doesn't.
I would rather have that than a tie though,
But that's,
because
dude, all you have to do is in bunt and sack fly and you win.
but then the other team can do that.
So then we're in the same situation. Okay, hypothetical. The Pirates are playing the Reds. Extra innings. The Reds have a man on second base. The Reds bunt the man to third. Sack fly. Reds score. So let's say it's 5-4 now. The Pirates get up. The Pirates have a man on second base. They bunt him over to third. Sack fly. He's home. You're still doing that 19 times.
Yeah, it might. I mean, I don't think. I mean, I'm trying to remember the World Baseball Classic. I don't think any of the innings went past 12 or 13. It was, they either because people underestimate. Because keep in mind, it's a lot harder to sacrifice bunt from second to third than it is from first to second. Because even though the runner isn't forced, you still have to get the bunt down, and you still have to make sure that it's in
These
the right
are
spot.
major league baseball players who can hit 100+ mile per hour fastballs. You're telling me they won't be able to consistently bunt?
Well, in the World Baseball Classic, they weren't able to. Either that or they were just stupid and they decided to risk it and go score more than one run because they knew
See,
that the other team would just do that.
but if you're a manager, right? Who's that man? Johnny Shelton, right?
There,
Nick
yep,
Shelton.
Derek Shelton.
Yeah. Now you have July 1st. All the Pirates have said they're coming to play. Awesome. If you're not Shelton, do you now run consistent bunt drills for your hitters?
I'm sure that they
Just
do
for this
already, but even
scenario?
more so now.
That's what I'm saying.
Yep, that now you don't have to run them for your pitchers now. So now they can focus all the time they usually spend teaching pitchers how to bunt, teaching the position players how to bunt.
Exactly.
Because
And then your issue. I hope a man who can hit a 102 mile per hour fastball consider how to bunt properly.
I kind of figured that out too, because you don't really need inherent God-given talent to bunt.
No, you
I
don't.
I had I was the worst baseball player in my entire high school team, and yet when they needed a pinch hitter to lay down a sac bunt, I was the man they called upon. So
See?
it clearly doesn't take athletic talent to bunt. But yeah, I do agree with you. It's kind of I do kind of agree with you. It could go on even longer if the players just keep laying down bunts. We could see an instance where a team might have some sort of home run hitter up and they don't want to waste that at bat and they try to get that extra run and that would be the difference. But yeah, it could be very interesting. It's a word that's been being thrown around a lot in this podcast. Very interesting, intriguing,
Yes, indeed.
because it's just you something you've never seen before. And I mean, one thing I keep thinking of: who's gonna get all the foul balls and the home runs? They're gonna have somebody, an employee, just go get
What
them
did they
all.
do in the KBO?
I don't even know. I'm sure
Hmm.
someone's there to get them, but yeah. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about how this impacts the Pirates. So
Yeah.
one
Let
one
me get
thing.
on Twitter. There was a tweet I wanted to read.
Oh, okay. Lay it on me.
I gotta find it. Give me 30 seconds.
Very sophisticated technology here at the Pittsburgh
Right.
Sportscast, ladies and gentlemen.
Pretty much. Okay, there are two tweets.
Okay.
There are two tweets I kind of want to go over. Find. Okay, this is by Andrew Filipponi of 93.7 The Fan, and this is a projected Pirates starting lineup.
Cool.
Catching, you're gonna have Jacob Stallings.
Oof.
First base, you're gonna have Ozuna. Second base, we're gonna have Frazier. Third base, Colin
Moran,
Moran.
yeah.
Shortstop, Kevin Newman. Left field, Brian Reynolds. Center
Cool.
field, Dyson. I forget his first name. I
Ron
apologize.
Dyson, yeah.
Right field, Gregory Polanco. Designated hitter, Josh Bell. Then your five starters, Joe Musgrove, Trevor Williams, Stephen Brault, Chad Keller, and
Mitch Keller.
Mitch Keller, my bad. And Chad Cool. Sorry, I was thinking of Chad Cool.
Yeah. Chad Cool back from Tommy John, of course. Missed last
And then
season.
your closer is going to be Kella, and your setup man is going to be Crick. And then the other tweet I wanted to read, I believe, is also from Andrew Filipponi. If I can find it again, that would be great.
All
Okay.
right, editing skills. I play the Jeopardy theme.
The Pirates really should sign Yasiel Puig to DH or to play right field. Shelton was talking about guys like JT Riddle and Phillip Evans as DH options today.
Oof.
Sign Puig for peanuts. Fans would love it. He's a fun player. Trade at deadline if/when team stinks. There's no risk, only upside. So, thoughts on the potential starting lineup and the other tweet about Yasiel Puig.
Well, I do certainly think that the universal DH does indeed hurt the Pirates. Because I was actually kind of liking the Pirates lineup that we had until we had to provide that extra bat now that Josh Bell will be at the designated hitter position. I do appreciate that we won't have to witness him trying to throw the ball to second base anymore. That was always a nightmare to watch. But I really, really think it's unfortunate that we have to put Osuna's bat into the lineup. I mean, he's no Josh Bell, obviously. He's decent, but I mean, we don't have that much depth. I mean, when you're talking about JT Riddle as a DH option, we went into a big rant on one of our early episodes on how he was hitting below 200 and we had no idea why he was signed. Yeah, I mean, I'm conflicted, but only based on Puig's, I don't know, personality. I mean, there was a lot of animosity there when he played for the Reds. He took on the entire team in a brawl, and
Well, that wasn't him.
that was Amir Garrett, but
Yeah.
he was part of that brigade that tried to fight us and was accusing our pitchers of throwing at people, and he basically has stated that he does not really like this team as an organization. Obviously, everyone but the owner is gone from that fiasco. But, I mean, like I said, on the field, I think it would be good. Like they said, they can sign him for cheap because of COVID and all the stuff that's been happening. And then if they get off to that hot start that they got off to the last couple years, then they can keep him and try to make a run. Or if they are their usual sucky selves, they can flip him at the deadline, get a decent prospect for him. But I'm just mainly concerned about his off the field issues. I hope he doesn't turn into some sort of Antonio Brown situation.
It's only 60 games, man. I think he wouldn't be that awful. Dude, we need offense. We need we need everything.
Do.
But dude, if JT Riddle, who can't bat 200, your DH, like, give me a break.
Yeah, but do you want to be 500 or do you want to get some draft stock?
Okay, so now we're talking tanking. Okay. We've been over this. The Pirates can't tank. They have the inability to tank and be successful with draft picks.
I mean, we gotta
Their
give him a
second round
chance.
draft pick this year is going to college.
No, he signed.
He
That
could have
guy,
gone to college.
Jones.
You can't tell me. You can't tell me that you have any faith in this team being able to develop draft picks.
Well, I certainly the guys that couldn't develop draft picks are all gone now. So,
Dude, we couldn't develop draft picks for 30 years.
Oh no. I just think we should give the guys a chance before. Unfortunately, that means we have to wait a few years before we really can see if this change has paid off. But
we have to wait for 5 years. Realistically, right?
Of course.
Okay. And if he has 3 seasons and he's god awful, he will be fired. before any of the draft picks can get here and do anything. When was the last time a new manager had 5 consecutive losing seasons and kept their job?
Uh, Probably
Exactly.
one of the Pirates managers during the streak. I'm not sure how long Lloyd McClendon was the manager. Uh, John Russell was the manager for a good 4 years, I believe,
Ooh.
before they finally dumped him.
So he has to see baseball's stupid because it's going to take 5 years for any of these yahoos to develop, and then he may be gone if he can't figure out how to win some baseball game sometimes. And let's say he loses a lot, he'll be fired within 3 years, and then we'll have to do another organization shift,
And
and
it's just
then
lather, rinse, repeat at
yeah,
infinitum.
it's why we lost for 21 years. Why we're going to lose
Exactly.
for another 21. Because until baseball gets a salary cap, this is a Pirates' fate.
Yeah, I think that's one reason a lot of people maybe I heard a lot of people wanted the season to be canceled because they felt that uh they would go the way of the NHL and implement a salary cap. And the only reason that the NHL even has a salary cap is because an entire season was lost in a labor dispute. So the players eventually caved, and we have a salary cap and a salary floor now. But I mean, I certainly am glad that we're gonna have baseball, especially considering I think that work stoppage that people are talking about is probably going to happen after 2021 when the CBA ultimately expires.
Interesting. So you think in 2021 we won't have baseball?
2022 because the CBA
2022 we won't have
expires
baseball.
after 2021.
Okay, so in 2022 we won't have baseball.
Uh,
I hope you
well,
like golf.
well, I hope we do, and I hope they get this solved. But if they want a salary cap, they're probably gonna have to end up losing a season over it because that's the only way either side will cave. I mean, either that or maybe just a threat, maybe something similar to at the very at the very least we could see a salary cap implemented while 2022 ends up looking like 2020 except you actually get fans.
See, because you were kind of talking about how it's the American way not to have ties. Well, it's the American way to have a salary cap. Every other sport has one, except baseball.
Yeah, the only thing they have is the luxury tax, which only affects like 4 teams, and it doesn't do anything to disincentivize cutting spending because the billionaire owners are just so rich they just eat the luxury tax like it's peanuts and proceed on signing players for millions like they're Sheikh Mansour. So
It's awful. Um, so what are your projections for the season for the Pirates? What like win total, loss total, any breakout players?
who? Um this is so this is substantially more difficult to predict with the shortened season. It's almost like it's like trying to predict March Madness every year. There's just so much unpredictability because there's so few games, obviously, in March Madness. It's so unpredictable because one game determines whether you move on or go home. But in baseball, there's only 60 games, which is basically a little over a third of what we usually get. That being said, I can see the Pirates winning anywhere from 25 to 30 games potentially. Um, I think that it's a bit ahead of what their projected record would have been had the season been 162 games. That's mainly because the Pirates will only be facing their division and the American League Central instead of the East, so they won't have to play against the Yankees or the Red Sox or that tough division. They'll be able to play what could arguably be the weakest division in the league.
I don't even think it's an argument. I think it is the weakest division. You only have
Yeah.
one good team.
And
You have
then
the Cleveland Indians. Detroit was awful last year. The White Sox have been awful for like 10. The Royals, ever since they won the World Series,
have been
are
awful.
in a rebuild.
The Twins had
The
one
Twins had
breakout
like one
year.
good year. And then,
They have an outside chance of challenging for the division, but then again, anyone can win any division this year because again, it's only 60 games. So yeah, it's gonna be really like I said, I expect between 25 and 30 wins, but the standard deviation for predictions in a 60-game season is very high.
right.
So, what are your thoughts? How many games do you think they're gonna win?
I don't know. Because they're like two schools of thought, right? Historically speaking, the Pirates have gotten off to very fast starts, right?
Indeed, they have.
Um, where a lot of times they're in contention up until around the All-Star game, and then once the All-Star break hits, they tend to fold amongst themselves. Um, so if you want to have like a positive mindset, you could see, well, historically, the Pirates are off to fast starts. This entire season's going to be a fast start. You know, if you can get Williams back to form, if you can get Musgrove back to form, you know, if Mitch Keller takes that next step, Cole's functional. You know, you have Bell, you have, you know, Polanco, you have Brian Reynolds, you know, you have some talent. You know, is it impossible for the Pirates to put up a run again, going against potentially the worst division in baseball? At least it was last year, projected to be again. You know, if you want to be positive, and you can say, you know, could the Pirates scrap something together for 60 games? You know, maybe, you know, they won 35-40. You know, maybe make something happen. Then you have the other argument, right, that says we have no bullpen. It does not exist. You have two guys who are functional, and those are your eighth and ninth inning guys. The rest of them are bang average, if not worse. So realistically, if the pitchers begin to struggle, right, if the starters begin to struggle, you know, you don't have a lot with your bullpen. You're gonna have to rely on your offense, which has been weakened without Starling Marte. You know, then if you want to go with that angle, you know, you're looking at maybe 15 to 20 games. Right? If you just get
Exactly.
blown out because, you know,
It
you
could,
play the Brewers, you play the Cardinals, the Cubs, all who can hit. So if your starters begin to struggle, you know, like you said, we're playing 10 games against each. You know, the Reds playing the Great American Ballpark, which, as we know, is such a hitter-friendly park. You know, then you got to play the White Sox, which is in Chicago, depending on how that wind goes, right? Um, so, you know, one mindset is, you know, 40 games. You know, if you pitchers get hot, everybody gets hot at once. You know, you can put something together. The other school of thought is we have no pitching, and if the hitters begin to struggle, how do you win a game? So it's so, like you said, the standard deviation is so high with this. I could see an argument for us only winning 15 to 20 games. I could see an argument for us winning 35 games. Um, I'm kind of between the 20 and 25 game mark. Just because I don't know what the offense is. Um, Yeah, the offense has too many question marks for me to really be excited about. There's obviously question marks with pitching. Yeah, some probably between 20 and 25 games.
Yeah, so we kind of have the same kind of opinion on this. So yeah, I think definitely. Um, I'm trying to think. Breakout players. Um, I think Chad Cool. I think he's gonna be. I think he's gonna have a nice comeback here after Tommy John surgery. We've seen how pitchers can have almost stronger arms due to the physical therapy and the months and months of rehab that they endure. So I think he could be one of those guys. Return to form, maybe perhaps even be a little bit better than that. So I'm looking at him to be our perhaps second best, maybe second best pitcher in the rotation after Trevor Williams. As for offensive players, um, I am really intrigued to see if Gregory Polanco will finally put together a solid season. Since we're only playing 60 games, that doesn't give him a lot of time to pick up his usual injury. And you also have to remember the fast start that he had a couple years ago. He's been part of the reason the Pirates you typically get off to fast starts. He starts the year on a pretty high note, and with the season being only 60 games, I look to Polanco to perhaps find that early season form that he has in usual seasons. And who knows? Maybe we could head towards that upper end of the prediction spectrum.
Yeah, for me, um, let me think. Let me think. Let me think. Let me think. I would like to see Colin Moran take that next step. I think he's shown flashes of being a reliable bat, but again with him, I think it's a lot of consistency, right? Sometimes he gets really hot for a month, other times he's just not. Um, so I think Moran, I would like to see him take that next step. I would like to see how Reynolds can improve on a fairly good rookie season. I would like to see him, take those next steps, continue to build, not go into that sophomore slump. Um, Pitching wise, I'm afraid of everyone. Um, I have zero confidence in any pitcher that we have, except Kella and Crick. Everyone else, I have no confidence in.
Yeah, it's
So let's see
fair.
what Mitch Kella can do. He was touted as being the next big thing in the minors. Granted, Ray Searage screwed him up last season. He has a new, like we said, new regime to work with here. Would kind of like to see, what he has under a new regime. Maybe less home runs because, as we discussed on an earlier podcast, refusing to adapt to a juiced ball and other statistics. Maybe a new regime who enjoys statistics can get the home runs down, get the ERA down, and
The home
kind of,
runs
kind of
up, not down.
what?
The home
Yeah,
runs need to be up, not down.
no, you want the home runs down. If you're a pitcher,
Oh, I thought you were talking about offense. Never mind. Carry on.
no. Ray Searage and his pitch to contact with a juice
Oh
ball
yeah.
is
I
going to lead to a ton of home runs.
My bad. My bad. That's on me.
And I'm trying to. Oh, yeah, I was just saying, with the new regime and new pitching coach, maybe it's not so much pitch to contact. And, the big home run numbers we were seeing from the pitchers, pitching wise, will go down. Because I know Kyle Crook really struggled with that last year.
That
If
he
my
did.
memory serves me correct, he was giving up the long ball a lot. So hoping to keep the balls down. I mean, home runs down. I guess up, and then on offense, we would love to hit more home runs because
Oh
we only
yeah,
have Josh Bell.
most
He's the only one who
definitely.
can consistently hit them.
Yeah, I'd like to see that return of that early season, that absolute tear he went on where he really should have been the starter, the starting first baseman in the
Well,
National
see,
League.
go ahead, finish your point.
I certainly think a season ago he should have been the starting first baseman in the National League with all due respect to Freddie Freeman. Josh Bell was taking the world by storm, and it was really unfortunate that he couldn't start. Did, of course, make the All-Star game for the Pirates as a reserve, but it was really frustrating to see him not start. But if he can reclaim that first half dominance of a season ago, who knows? He could hit, anywhere from, maybe 15 home runs, you know?
Well, what's crazy is then you can like being a biased Pirate fan, right? You could kind of talk yourself into them being competitive, right? Because then you can be like, well, if Josh Bell gets hot like he did last. Remember, this is only 60 games, and he was hotter for more than 60. He was hotter for more like 80, right? So
Indeed.
then you talk like, well, if Bell gets out to that quick start, right? It's only 60 games, and if Polanco gets out to that quick start, and if Reynolds gets off to a quick start, you have some other dysfunctional pieces add, then you can talk yourself again with only playing the division and the week central. You begin to talk to yourself about maybe not a division title, but then what about a wild card title? Like look at the East. Now the NL East is screwed going against the AL East. You know what I'm saying? And the AL West is nothing to be laughed at. The Mariners are functional. The A's are functional. The Angels have Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani, who are two superstars, who again, if things get hot, can get on a run. The Rangers are and they have the Astros, who yes, go coming off of what are we even calling it? Just stealing sign gate? I don't know. I'm gonna call it sign gate. Coming off of
Trash. I've heard trash gate,
trash
trash
gate,
can
sign
gate.
gate, whatever type of gate. They're coming off of so like the NL West plays the difficult AL West. The AL East plays the NL East plays the best division in baseball in the AL East. Then we get the worst division. So again, it's a thing with the 60-game schedule, right? You get hot, you get Bell, Polanco, some players get hot. You're playing the worst teams in the league at least 20 times. And the Reds are nothing. It's not the Reds that aren't fantastic either. Um, Man, I can see why a Pirate fan could try to convince themselves of making at least being a contender for 60 games.
Yeah. So, I think we ought to close it out with prediction. Who's gonna win the NL Central and who's gonna take home the World Series? So, Chris, why don't you kick it off first?
That's tough. Who's going to win the NL Central? I
That's
think
the question.
that is the question. It's a good question. I'm just going to give you all the division winners at this point because why
Ooh
not?
boy.
Um, I think my gut says Brew Crew. Um, with the Cubs a close second. Um, but the Brewers feel like they're very similar to the Pirates, but like just better. Like the Brew Crew, I feel like they don't have a lot of like excellent pitchers. They just because they play in Miller Park, they just smack the ball around, and that's how they win a lot of games. Again, Cubs have been here the past half decade with their young crew of Rizzo and Bryant. They got Yu Darvish, Lester. They have that really good catcher Wilson Contreras. So I think the Cubs are going to be a player, but got feelings for the Brew Crew. Out east, can you really see anyone but the Nationals? Nationals coming off their first World Series ever. Excellent season. And a lot of that team stayed together. They haven't lost that team. So I'll go with the Nationals for the AL East. I mean NL East. The West. It just seems to be the Dodgers division, man.
Yeah, I can't see anybody overtaking the Dodgers, especially now that they have Mookie Betts.
Yeah, it just seems like the Dodgers division. The two wildcard teams, I'll go with the Chicago Cubs. I think they'll make a wild card. The second, who will be the second wild card team? You could go Phillies. I think you could go Diamondbacks or Rockies. Even the Giants. Giants are kind of a stretch, I think. I think they're old now. I'll go with the Rockies. I think the Rockies. Yeah, I just think the Phillies and any team out east having to play the L East 20 times. I think it's going to be hard for them to pick up a wild card team. You, and then I guess we'll do AL.
If you want, I mean.
Yeah, we got time.
Yeah, sure.
Go. NL predictions?
So I'm doing the AL, I guess.
No, you can do NL, then we'll both do our AL.
So for the Central, I think I would have to agree with you. Milwaukee Brewers just seem like the most complete team out there. For basically all the reasons you said. NL East, I'm actually gonna go with a bit of surprise here. I'm gonna go with the Atlanta Braves. I think they were really
okay.
I think they were really knocking on the door. Remember, I do believe they did win the division a year ago, because I think the Nats got the wild card, if I'm not mistaken. So Ronald Acuna Jr. is obviously still an MVP candidate. They got a lot of all-around players. I think they're going to take the division. And out west, no contest. LA Dodgers, they're just too dominant. There's no way. Also, going back to the NL East, the Nationals got up to a very weak start, of course. The famous 19-31 through 50 games that they had. So they could be a really streaky team. Remember that they did get kind of lucky and hit one of those streaks, one of those good streaks in the postseason, and that's how they won the World Series. So I ultimately think that since the Braves are a bit more consistent, they are going to be able to get it done. And as for the wild cards, I really think that the NL Central is going to benefit of beating up the AL Central. I think that the two wild cards are going to be the Cubs and the Cardinals.
Okay.
Three NL Central teams, because the NL East and the AL East, well, the AL East I think is better than the NL East, so that won't be looking good. And I think that NL and AL West will just beat each other up. So I ultimately think that due to the weakness of the AL Central interleague play, which no other division will have to deal with, I ultimately believe that the Cubs and the Cardinals are gonna take it in the wild card. And I guess since you went first with the NL, I guess I'll go first in the AL.
Sounds good.
So in the AL East, again, I think it's no contest. I think the New York Yankees definitely have this division locked down. Of course, very exciting with Garrett Cole and company. Finally get to see him on the mound with yet another competent staff who will utilize him correctly. Ray Searage. And then going into the AL Central, it's just a matter of who sucks the least, and in this case, it's the Cleveland Indians yet again. Everyone else would be better off tanking for number one overall pick. And in the AL West, I think that's going to be a really, really tight division. I think it's going to be one of the closest races of the season. It's really, really tough. I have to think a bit on this one. Ooh. You know what? I think that star players are going to make a bigger impact with less games. And I think that giving that Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, and the LA Angels of Anaheim are going to take home the AL West and will finally get, for the first time since I think 2014, get to see some postseason baseball by the potential GOAT.
Wild card teams?
Wild card teams, uh, I'd probably gotta go with I'm gonna go with the Red Sox as one of them. And you know what? I think I'm thinking Seattle Mariners. Haven't
Okay.
made the playoffs. Longest playoff drought, I believe, now in all of major sports. Every other team in every other league in America has made the playoffs since 2001, except for the Seattle Mariners. But that drought will end. Unfortunately, they won't be able to win 116 games that they did the last time they made the playoffs. But I think they'll make an impact, and I think they'll sneak in and get that wild card while nobody's looking. Your thoughts, Chris?
What about the Padres? They haven't made the playoffs in forever.
They made the playoffs, I think, in 2000, sometime in after 2001.
I'm gonna look it up. Um, my predictions. I think Yankees all the way. I don't entirely think it's gonna be a contest. Yeah, Yankees all the way there. Central, I would agree. Team who sucks the least, which I think would be Cleveland. Maybe Minnesota, if they really don't want to suck, could make a run for the playoffs. But I'm going to go with Cleveland. And in the West, I'll go. You went with the Angels. I don't want to have the same exact thing as you. So I'll go. I'm stuck between Houston and Oakland because I think Houston, has that chip on their shoulder, right? Like, oh, we need to prove to everyone that we can do it without cheating. But I'm gonna go with the A's. I'll go Oakland Athletics. They have a solid team. I think they made the playoffs last year. Um, yeah, I'll go with Oakland Athletics. The two wildcard teams. Man, I think you got to take them out the AL East. Red Sox and Rays.
I was considering that too when I was thinking of my second wild card, but I ended up going with Seattle.
I'll go Red Sox Rays. Um, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, I'll do that. Red Sox Rays, and then World Series. I don't think anyone wants to hear this, but I'm gonna go Yankees and Dodgers.
Oof.
With the Dodgers choking again, and the Yankees winning their 28th title.
Yeah, I think for me, uh, I think that the Yankees will make the World Series, but on the NL side, I think ooh, I think I might have to go with the Atlanta Braves.
Oh,
Honestly, I
okay.
think that I think they're going to be surprising. I think again, star players will make a difference, and Ronald Acuna is probably up there in terms of star power. I think they'll surprise the Dodgers if they play them. If some other team surprises the Dodgers, then the Braves will just beat that team. But I do unfortunately have the Yankees winning in a rematch of the 1999, I believe it is, World Series. The Yankees do win again, number 28, as the biggest poster child for the salary cap prevails.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
So I think that's about it. Anything else you want to say about the return of baseball?
Um, kind of like I said, kind of touched upon earlier. Interested to see kind of how the fans react. Will there be anger towards baseball? Will they accept baseball again just to have an American sport to watch if they're not into soccer or golf? Because I'm
Basketball and hockey
interested.
will be back in a month too. I mean, a month
So with
after baseball
football,
starts. And football. A
yeah,
lot of competition.
a lot of competition. Because you bring up an excellent point. Baseball doesn't own this block of time anymore. You got the two, and basketball's gonna be coming back too. Don't forget.
I said that, yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't. My eyes didn't hear you. Um, yeah, so I don't know. It's gonna be very, very interesting to see how this
Yeah,
goes.
we'll have to see what the ratings will tell us.
Yes, sir.
So, with that being said, remember to follow us on Twitter at PGH Sportscast. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Pittsburgh Sportscast. And if you're watching this on YouTube, remember to comment below any questions, comments, concerns, or anything else you'd like to run by us. You can also contact us via email, Pittsburgh Sports Pod, or no, Pittsburgh Sports Podcast, yes, at gmail.com. And a bit of a shameless plug here, but if you're into non-Pittsburgh sports or sports beyond Pittsburgh sports, you can catch out our brand new podcast, Miscellaneous Sports Mondays. We just came out with a brand new episode yesterday, so we'd really appreciate if you could check that out. You can find that wherever you get your podcast, as with the Pittsburgh Sportscast. But until next time, I'm Ryan,
And I'm Chris.
and we will see you next time right here on the Pittsburgh Sports Cast. Thanks for listening. So long, everybody.